My top 3 tips for betting on the NFL. Football is finally back. We made over $10,000 betting on the NFL last year. We're going to run it back with the exact same strategies and tips and tricks this time around to make even more profit this season. These tips are for anyone, for casual sports bettors, professional sports bettors, whatever it is. These are the main things you need to understand and little strategies to help you just make more profit per wager when you're betting. No longer are you going to be sweating out terrible parlays on Sundays and being frustrated with losing money over and over again. Seriously, these tips will actually help you make more money betting on the NFL. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Tip number 1, and this one is a pretty common one that I've heard tons of people say, but people just don't really listen because it's more fun to bet on Sunday mornings. And my tip here is to not bet on sides and totals on game day. The markets are too efficient. What I mean by that is throughout the week, when lines have been released at the beginning of the week, sharp sports bettors are coming in and they're betting those lines and they're moving the lines to an efficient spot. By the time Sunday morning rolls around before the games start, these lines are very, very, very accurate because of how much money has come in. All of the information surrounding the week has come through as well, and it's just not worth betting at that time. So instead, you should be betting earlier in the week before news has dropped or before money has come in, and take your stance on your team or whatever bet you want to take earlier in the week, because that's when you can actually find value as opposed to an hour or two before the game. A caveat to this is that technically you can get value the day, like the game on game day in the morning, just because injury or something comes along, someone's benched, whatever it might be, last minute news like that can happen. And so you can get value. But in general, if you're a casual sports bettor and you're betting on your team or your players, whatever it might be, take those bets earlier in the week and listen to the buzz and get an idea of where that line might move as the week moves on, because you can lock in some serious value early on. Tip number 2 here is to line shop when you're betting on sports. You need to make sure that you are looking around and finding the best price on your bet. Now you might think, well, what's the difference, between a plus 120 and plus 122? Does it even matter? Well, with that scale, it's a pretty small difference. However, all of this matters. Any extra value you can get on any single bet will increase your ROI. If you wanted to bet on the Chiefs this weekend and you were on BetRivers and you were offered a plus 112 and someone came along and said, well, no, I'll actually offer you plus 124. I'll give you an extra $12 for every $100 that you bet on this bet. Obviously, you're going to take that. Why would you not want that extra $12? That is what line shopping can do for you. I'm using this software called OddsJam that allows you to see all these odds. They connect to all of these sports books here, and you can look through tons, like all of the sharpest sports books in the world, and find the best price, right? You're looking for the best price. If you want to take the Chiefs, you're not going to take them at plus 112 on some sports book. You're going to go to DraftKings and take them at plus 124 because that's the best price out there. The best way to think about this is if someone's flipping a coin and they say, I'll give you $10 on heads or $11 on tails, and you get to flip it 100 times. You're obviously going to be betting tails every single time because you know that you're being paid out too much. That is a great example for how math and market data based betting called plus EV sports betting, that's what my strategy is. But to even get close to that, you need to start line shopping and getting into your head that the odds mean more than the actual pick. So if you do want to make a pick on a team or a player, make sure that you're line shopping using a software like OddsJam, link down below. You can try it out for free. And this allows you to become more profitable as a sports bettor. The third and final tip for betting on the NFL, and this is for people who have DFS or Pick'em apps like Prize Picks and Underdog and Better, you want to make sure that when you're developing a parlay or a slip here, that you're utilizing positive correlation. Now, what is positive correlation? Well, if you were to look at Tua's passing yards and Tyreek Hill's receiving yards, right? These two plays, if you're taking them both to go over, these are very, very positively correlated, right? Now, why? What does that mean and why? Well, if Tua were to go over his passing yards total, let's say he gets 300 passing yards, it's pretty likely that Tyreek Hill also is going over his receiving yards because every passing yard is equal to a receiving yard on Tua's receivers, and Tyreek Hill is his number one wide receiver, right? So they're much more, they're very positively correlated. Whereas if Tua were to go under his passing yards, it would be best for you to pair Tyreek Hill to also go under, because if Tua goes under at 220 yards, well, it's pretty unlikely that Tyreek is going to go over his receiving yards. Obviously, it's possible, but what we like to do at Juice Bets and with Plus EV Math sports betting, we're just looking at probabilities for a specific bet to hit, and then we convert that into odds, and then we see, okay, well, if the probability of something to hit is 40% and the odds are a certain amount, does that make sense, or are we getting paid too much or too less, right? And so what happens when something is positively correlated, like Tua and Tyreek here, basically what happens is the likelihood of this bet to hit increases, right? The likelihood is higher that they're both going to hit when they're positively correlated. So the percent chance for the bet to hit increases. But what happens to the odds? Well, your payout decreases, right? Now, that is common across most sports books in the industry. If you were to go to FanDuel or DraftKings and you take Tua and Tyreek Hill both either over or both under, you're going to get paid out way less than if you were to take Tua over and Tyreek under, right? Because they recognize the correlation. However, this is where the interesting thing happens here. On Prize Picks, they don't reduce the payouts enough, right? If we take Tyreek Hill and Tua negatively correlated, Tyreek over, Tua under, they give us a 3x. If we were to change Tyreek to also go over, they only drop it down by 0.25x. That is not enough. It should be dropped down to like 2.25 or 2x because of how correlated these two players are. Now, obviously, not all players are made equally. Tua and Tyreek are very, very correlated. You could, look at, how correlated is Trevor Lawrence and Christian Kirk. Well, there's Evan Ingram. They have a bunch of other wide receivers there and tight ends that could also eat into this. However, with players specifically like Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, or Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, these guys are very, very correlated together. Anyways, it's a long way of saying that if you're making plays on Prize Picks, definitely make sure that you're positively correlating. If you like Tua to go over his passing yards, toss in Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle to also go over their passing yards, because you're increasing your likelihood of the bet to hit while not decreasing your payout. Your payout is pretty much staying the same. And so over time, this is a profitable way to be betting on the NFL. So hopefully that makes sense to go over everything. First tip, make sure that you're not waiting till Sunday morning to place your bets. The markets are just too efficient. You're not going to have an edge if you're waiting until then. The second tip is make sure you're line shopping. If you like a player or a team, get the best price possible. That is the best way to increase your profits over time. And the third way, if you're using Prize Picks or Underdog or these Pick'em DFS apps, make sure you're correlating your plays, you're positively correlating them, because that increases your likelihood of winning while not decreasing that payout. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know how fired up you are for football. What's your favorite bet in week 1? Let me know. I might have to tell you. And yeah, we will see you guys soon.